What is going on, golf fans? It's your boy, GS Luke, here with our Round 3 live stream for the Players' Championship. Going to get you guys ready for all of your exposure Saturday with a look at the weather report, some of the strategy over there for your Round 3 lineups, as well as a look through the shots gained metrics, any deep dives that you guys want out there on specific players, as well as a look at some of the contests that we have available for tomorrow, how you should approach maybe choosing the contest to go out there and play in, and then afterwards, how to put together some of your lineups as well. We'll focus on the lineup construction, what you should be thinking about when putting together your builds. But the first thing I need you to do, whether you're watching this live or on replay, is smash the like button over there for the SHIPIT Nation crew. Subscribe if you guys haven't already, and say hi, right? Whether it's down there in the live chat, I want to know what you guys are maybe sipping on down there in the chat. We got a little vodka lemonade over here in the cup. Not something we always do over here on stream, but hey, I'm on vacation. I'm going to enjoy myself a little bit. And hey, if you're not really excited to still hop into some golf out there for tomorrow, let's go ahead and get after things. What's going on, Michael? Michael seems to have maybe a slow start to the week, but hey, that's what Showdown is for, obviously. Can't say that I share the same sentiment myself, sitting in the top 10 of the big $5 GPP right now, but hey, that's what the last two rounds are for. So maybe round 3, round 4 Showdown will be the big one for you this week. You can get it back that way. We got Jacob Baseball down there as well. We got Baseball Dad, who, by the way, it's what, 2 streams in a week? That is a record over there for yourself. So glad to see that you made it live. You had Poston putting it together. That's for sure. Really good round to take advantage of today. And anyone going out alone tomorrow? Not sure. I think it depends on what Toasty does on his last hole. You know, if he eagles it, it could move it to a -2 cut line, but we'll have to see whether it's an even or an odd amount of players. But one thing I know for sure, Nick, is that if there is somebody going off by himself, there's a good chance that you're playing them. Cheers to the weekend. Cheers to that, Michael. I guess we'll take our first sip to that one there. And it's a good one. Not overly strong and definitely strong enough too. What's going on, Rob? Said, hey, Luke, fellow shipper, longtime listener and catching live. I said, thank you for the spot on analytics. Of course. I appreciate the kind words, Rob. Let's run it back for tomorrow. What's going on, Ross? We got the little Mio Energy and H2O, which, by the way, that shit bangs as well. I love some Mio Energy as well, especially when I'm trying to get some work done. What's going on, Mike? Maker's Mark with a dash of Sprite. There you go. By the way, I love Maker's Mark. That was my to-go drink, especially early on in my whiskey drinking career. I still love Maker's Mark. It's just that I've had it so many times now that I try and find some new stuff off the shelf. But hey, good old reliable Maker's Mark is always there. Tracking various Showdown projection sources. So far, Luke is leading the way. That's all I'm going to say. Hey, you're doing the work for me. You're doing all the promotion I need for what I need to do. Hey, keep at it. Please do. Right? Keep at the projections. Let me know how they stand up. You guys know I feel very confident about what I do. So I'm totally cool with you doing that. You got Ryan there, says, looks like carnage coming into the weekend. Dude, I cannot wait for it. We'll talk about it here in a minute, but Saturday, Sunday are going to be absolute must-watch TV. Let's talk about what we had today. And, you know, I found it interesting that I had a few naysayers in the comments yesterday mentioning that, oh, there's no way the PM is going to play easier. Well, you know, I'll just leave the evidence on the screen right there, right? Look at that. About over a 0.2 shot advantage for the PM wave. And that was, by the way, with the first 2.5 hours of the PM wave playing harder than what you had in the morning. The reason for that was higher winds around midday than what they were calling for. And I can tell you on the golf course, they were like 10, 15 miles an hour sustained. So, you know, it played like 0.2 over par for like the first few hours of the afternoon, but look at how much it rebounded, right? It went from out there into the positive in terms of your average score to a minus 0.66 scoring average. So, you know, if it wouldn't have had those midday wins, you're probably looking at like a stroke advantage out there from wave to wave. So I guess I'll just say I told you so to some of those people that were out there. Again, no hard feelings. I guess, you know, you can disagree on whatever you want out there, but I was correct about the weather edge yesterday. So I'll just leave it right there. Or you had somebody like JT nearly have a course record over there in the PM wave. Now, it would have been great to play some JT today. I did not use them out there in lineups. So that one definitely stung not having that -10. But, you know, of these top level finishers, you had some AM guys, like, for example, a Morikawa that shot -7, same thing with a Charlie Hoffman, but a good amount of them from the PM wave as well, like a Will Zalatoris, guys like Sungjae Im, Joel Damon that went super low, right? We mentioned Sungjae and Joel Neil Damon on yesterday's live stream, right? Same thing with Will Zalatoris, right? He's a player that was really striping it well that I tried to point out to you guys. So if you played, without a weather edge today, you probably did okay. But if you used it to go out there and break some ties, a quarter stroke advantage like you have right now, that's exactly what it is as of this very second, is nothing to scoff at. And the one thing I'll say is that I do not expect this to really keep up as the week goes on. The reason why the edge maybe wasn't as large as what you had for round number one, which by the way was expected, right? We did not think it was going to be a two-shot advantage, is because the course is starting to dry up, right? Unlike what you had out there for Thursday, where it was pretty receptive the entire day, out here in the afternoon wave today, I did notice balls start to roll out a little bit more. Now, the big trade-off and the reason why it still played easier is because of how much further we're hitting the golf ball. Now, tomorrow, with all this wind that we have in play, you are not going to be hitting the golf ball nearly as long, right? Even if it does heat up in the afternoon like it's supposed to, when you have side winds like this, it knocks the ball out of the air. So conditions in general are going to get much more difficult, right? As you'd probably expect with the forecast that we're about to go through, but partially also because the course is starting to dry up. So I really think we're going to get a fun golf course over the next few days and perhaps a little bit of a weather edge over there for tomorrow. Now, we don't have the tee times yet, so we're not 100% sure it'll be two sums off of one, but I would be a betting man saying that it's probably going to be two sums off of hole number one. If you just take a look at the current scoring as of now, like it'll be either 65 guys that make the cut exactly, or about 72 players that we have making the weekend. So, worst case scenario, right? 72 guys making the weekend isn't anything that I think is going to have to cause those three sums. If it's two sums off of hole number one, you could see an advantage for some of your early starters. The reason I say that is the winds really do kick up as the day goes on. You can see in the morning, it is in the single digits until about 11 a.m. local time. But from about noon onwards, you're talking about 13 to 15, even 16 miles an hour of sustained wind. And more significantly, wind gusts in that 25 to even close to 30, even 35 miles an hour by the end of the day. So your guys, if it's going to be two sums off of one, again, that's the assumption with this analysis here. If you're going to have guys going off super late, let's say like 2 p.m. local time, you're talking about playing in windy conditions the entire round, right? Not just part of the round, the entire round, and wind gusts that are going to get borderline nasty out there towards the end. Whereas if you're going to be one of the first few guys off, it might be a slightly cooler golf course, but this difference in wind, right? Going from like 7, 8, maybe 9 miles an hour up to 15 miles an hour sustained and 30 mile an hour wind gusts is going to be a bigger difference than what you have with that temperature, right? And I think today is a perfect case example of really what we get there. Right, today it was a 0.25 shot advantage, right, between morning and afternoon. And winds in the afternoon were a little bit higher, right, but they weren't anywhere near what we're going to get out there for tomorrow. So I would say you would want to take some of the earliest starters that you can. If they end up doing three sums off of both tees, right, that would be the middle of the leaderboard that's going off early. But if it's two sums off of one, they're probably starting around 8 a.m. local. They've got to start early to get all those players in. And those sort of guys, hell, if they start at 7:30, like they have the last few days, 7:40, I believe, was the actual start time for Thursday, Friday, then those guys would have an even bigger advantage than what you have for some of the later starters. So, of course, right, we're going to have to track the tee times as the day goes on, right? We really don't know what it's going to look like. And we're going to want to track this HRRR model as well. If tomorrow it looks a little bit flatter when it comes to the weather, right, we might want to maybe take some of those mid to later starters just a little bit more. But if it looks like there's going to be a pretty drastic change out there with the wind like it does right now, then I'm going to be trying to take some of the earliest guys out. So I'm going to be playing this by ear, right? This is no concrete situation, right? No sort of like guaranteed weather edge or anything like that. But as it currently stands, it does look like you want to incorporate that into your process. Let's go over here to the shots gained metrics. So let me go ahead and actually refresh this over here on Data Golf. Now is the time for any specific player deep dives that you want. So if there's anyone you want to go through the metrics on out there for round number 2, just let me know down in the live chat. We're also going to go through some of the shots gained leaders when it comes to shots gained approach, off the tee. Also, we're going to bring up the ball striking tab, which will probably be what we spend a lot of our time on when it comes to these analysis, to try and find some guys that are good plays out there for round 3. So anyone else that you want my deep dive on, just go ahead and let me know down in chat. But we're going to do our usual thing, right? Look at the ball striking poppers, maybe look at a few of the guys that got lucky out there with the short game, which, speaking of, do we have a shots gained short game on here? It looks like we do. All right. Okay. So that actually only brings up the short game stuff, I guess. Yeah, I guess never mind then. So let's just get that out of there. I'll refresh this. I actually don't know what I did there. out there with that table. Let's get the ball striking back up there, and we'll go through any questions now. So where we leave off, you had 100% of Obear in 12 lineups, would have had all 12 6 of 6s, but of course he ruined it. Hey, that's PGA DFS, man. The one thing I'll say, Colin, is maybe learn from your mistakes a little bit. Going 100% of a player is a very risky proposition. It can pay off for you for sure, right? Especially if you're only entering like 12 lineups, but it is also a very risky thing to do. So just maybe kind of learn from that, get that perspective going forward. And, if you still like somebody that much, don't be afraid to lock them, right? I'm not telling you not to do so, but just kind of know what you're getting yourself into, right? You got Jen down there, says smash the like button. You heard her. Go ahead and do so if you haven't already. JT, the poster child for or he could. That's for sure. And I saw your message a little bit earlier, Nick, about saying that. I think you're spot on with that. Like, if you can shoot +6 one day and then go out there and shoot -10 the next, anyone can do it. And by the way, it wasn't even just that JT shot +6 round number one. He lost like 8 strokes tee to green, right? He did it in the worst possible way. He gained putting, and then he lost out there from tee to green. And then today, he looked absolutely unconscious. And I've got to say, I saw the entire round. I saw everything but 18. I left it hole 17. So if there's such thing as a jinx, right? I didn't get to see him play 18. He went out there and made the bogey. Every shot that I saw, so that would be holes 6 through 17 that I saw for Justin Thomas today, he looked literally like he was not thinking on the golf course. He was hitting tee shots, literally picking up the tee about half a second after he hit it, which I cannot tell you how confident that he means he is, right? He knows as soon as he hit the ball that it's perfect, right? He goes down there, just picks up the tee, doesn't even watch where he goes out there and lands. And he was taking about 40 seconds before he hit every shot. So he was sitting there visualizing. That's normally what the players are doing, right? When they're sitting there, just sitting over the golf ball for 30 seconds. Whatever he was doing, I hope tomorrow, the first tee shot we see, he sits there for those 30 seconds and visualizes, because every tee shot he hit, I mean, I guess 16, right? He missed a little bit, right? 18 with the 3-wood. That was his worst tee shot of the day. Pressure of the course record, no doubt, got to him there. But every other tee shot was just perfect. So, yeah, or he could, and I think he's got some really good momentum going. I mean, if he continues that, watch out, he could win this thing, right? Let alone just go out there and make the cut. Really wanted that bird to bat the ball back and play. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the one on 18. So I didn't see that one live, but I did see the replay. He almost took out the bird. And by the way, that's an endangered bird, so you don't want to do that. This guy says victory lapping 0.2 strokes. I'm not victory lapping anything. I'm just victory lapping over the people that were being naysayers in the chat, because they deserve it, right? They were trying to tell me that I was so wrong about it ahead of time that, yeah, you know what? I am going to victory lap that. And if that's that much of an issue, I'm just going to ban you and send you on your way, because I frankly don't give a shit for your comments down there. So peace on, dude. You can take a hike out there. Play suspended. Yeah, that was definitely a no-brainer after what we had round number one. You said the PGA Tour has a problem if they can't finish the round. Yeah, it's a really big field. So 146 players, I guess it's 144 this week, that we haven't played for the players. It's just too many this time of year. You cannot do that. It's physically impossible to get that many players in. And based on what I've heard from some interviews with some of the tour officials, they know that, right? Like, they know that 120 is probably the sweet spot out there for any given event. And I believe starting next year that most events are only going to have like 120, maybe like 140 towards midsummer. Like midsummer, you have enough time to go out there and actually get in that many players. Not so much this time of year. Rory and Scotty were standing on those tee boxes from the second hole on. Dude, they went off this morning too. Very impressive what they went out there and played. And, conditions weren't terrible for them out there in the morning, but they had the harder side of things, right? Just looking at the numbers, and they still went out there and shot -5, -6. So tip of the cap to them. Will the -1 guys be the first guys going out? Play is suspended. So we're not sure, Ryan. So let me actually stop sharing real quick. I'm going to bring up Twitter, and what I'm going to do is see if they tweeted anything out, because a lot of times what they'll do in this situation is they'll kind of tell us ahead of time what the tee time situation is going to be. If they haven't done so, though, we're not going to know until they tweet that out. So let me see if they've posted it. So you have the tweet here mentioning that they suspended it due to darkness, but nothing yet on whether it's going to be 2 sums or 3 sums off of both tees. What I'll say, because of the current situation, and let me refresh this just to make sure that the leaderboard is currently up to date, is it looks like 72 guys are going to make the cut, right? And if it's only 72 guys that are making it to the weekend, I would say that there's a very good chance that it's 2 sums off of 1, because that's, I guess, 36 groups that they're going out there and playing. They should be able to get that done in time out there tomorrow, especially because, there's only a few guys that have to go out there and finish. Now, because they didn't finish play, that's another aspect that we have to consider. But you can see here, right, there's only 3 guys that haven't finished their round. And I actually want to double check this one as well. I think there's a chance that they like play and finish, right? Because if they hit their last tee shot at 18, they could have gone out there and finished their round. And in fact, it looks like they did, right? So let me share this for you guys. It looks like they finished their round. So it looks like we're actually going to know ahead of time. They're going to have to tweet it out at some point, right? Give us that information. But look at that, right? Every single player has finished their round. So hallelujah, amen. We got them all done in play. Ryan Denny, let's look at what they sucked at today. Let's look at that, shall we? It'll be the first deep dive that we do here, which, by the way, guys, hit me with any players that you want. So Aaron Rice sucked today with his putting. Definitely somebody I could go back to. And by the way, just to show you guys why we avoid some of those big popping putters, right? He gained 4 out there in round number 1. He lost 4 strokes in round number 2. So that shows you the volatility of putters. Let's look at Denny. Was it also the putter? So Denny was more so off the tee and approach play that really held him back today, which is kind of disappointing because round 1, he was fantastic across the board. Stat profile for Denny is like a 4 out of 10, right? It's, I'd say, not great after what we had for round number 2. Aaron Rye, though, not a great stat profile, right? He still did gain over there off the tee today, but he's going to putt better over there for round number 3. So I'd say more of close to like a 6, maybe 7 out of 10 when it comes to that stat profile. Can I deep dive Morikawa? Absolutely can. So Moriflawa, as some people would call him, went out there and had a pretty solid day across the board. Short game, though, was 5 strokes into the positive. So, you know, just like I mentioned with some of the players yesterday, it's really hard to go out there and back up 4 or 5 shots gained into the positive with the short game categories. I don't think he's a terrible play because ball striking was still there, right? Over there and approach and off the tee. But I also don't think it's something that you should count on, you know, like he's not going to go out there and gain this 5 shots gained short game again. So he's probably a fade for me in a lot of my lineups. Just not something I normally go back to. Deep dive Lowry and who should go off early. Also, you like the Lover in the Wind. Lowry made the cut, right? Just to double check that. I believe so, right? Right on the line there at T65. So yeah, he's going off early. And his shots gained look a lot like what we had for round number 1. Round 1, he lost 3 strokes putting, and everything else was great. Today, he lost 2 strokes putting, and everything else was solid, right? Especially his approach play where he gained over 2 strokes there. Round 1, he gained over 2 strokes off the tee. So in terms of the stats, I mean, you've got a great play here, right? Somebody that has really just been leaking strokes over there in the 2 short game categories, but out there in the 2 categories from tee to green, or sorry, say from the ball striking, approach playing off the tee, he checks the box there. So I like some Shane Lowry. I think he makes a lot of sense. And there was another part to your question there. You said you also like Lover with the low ball flight. I could see that. I would say Minwoo Lee as well, right? He hits the ball relatively low. He luck sacked all around. That's why the Kawa deep dive. Yeah. And what he chipped in with the 3-wood on hole number 4. Saw that. It was pretty damn sweet. And I'm not sure who you're talking about there, Ross. Let's see. But a lot of water out there, that's for sure. Joel Damon did have the round of the day. Was glad to have him out there in quite a few lineups. 100% of Damon couldn't believe his round was stoked until Ludwig double. Yeah, dude, Aberg, not a great round, but I got to say Joel Damon, an absolute legend. I love what he did for me in my ROI today. And it was maybe the biggest bright spot that I had on the entire slate. And that 0.25 edge got you to the cash line, so you'll take it. Yeah, dude, I just got to say, like, when you do content like this, you're always going to get people that just want to talk shit for whatever reason. They've got sad lives, right? They've got nothing to do on a Friday, so they want to go on to their content, right? Blame other people for all their problems. I've seen it too many times before. And, you know, if you're going to be one of those people, I'll just block you and move on with my way, right? You can go be miserable out there with other people. I'm not going to let you tear me down in the process. Rob says, you got me some big money on Minwoo at 125 to 1. Whew. He said, pray for you. And you also got Akshay at 50 to 1. Those are some nice numbers to have on guys up there at the top. Best of luck, dude. It's always great to have those 2 leaders. Botti has been money with that putter this week. For sure. You say Clark killed you today, dude. He withdrew. I actually saw him walk off the golf course. Not sure if it was an injury, but yeah, that one would have stunk to have a whole bunch of. He said the JT jinx is what you were referring to. He was rolling, then I leave and immediately plunks it. Gotcha. Yeah. I was wondering what you were referring to before. And yeah, I kind of did jinx him, I guess, over there with leaving the golf course. But I had my chauffeur. I have a paid chauffeur this week rather than Uber. It's actually cheaper to go out there and just hire a private person than actually go through the public Uber system. So, and by the way, I call it the public Uber system because it takes you like an hour to get picked up. It's absolute bullshit. And you can just pay a private guy and get picked up whenever the hell you want and schedule it ahead of time. So blame the chauffeur. He was there a little bit early. And look at that, 2,500 to 1. Holy shit. Dude, I hope he wins for you. Dude, I got to say, after he played today, he's got a chance. Like, based on how he was hitting the golf ball, I've never seen that before. Actually, I've seen it one time before. That was Scotty Scheffler round 4 at this event last year. He hit the ball just as good as what JT did today. I've never, ever in my life in person seen someone hit it like he did. Xander, thoughts? So he's hardly through the cut line, which is good if you're somebody that's a conditions truther. And to this point of the week, his approach play has been the one big problem. And it's been both rounds, right? He lost out there round number 1. Today, he also lost nearly 1.5 strokes. So, he's more than capable of getting it figured out, right? Especially because he's got some rust going on now with him just having returned from play. The sort of guy that I will likely go out there and take a shot on just because he has that early tee time. Also because he's relatively low owned, but the stat profile isn't that favorable. Like it's not terrible. He's still gaining off the tee. He's still been okay in the 2 short game categories. It's just that if he's going to shoot like -5, -6, which is, what we're looking for in a nutted performance out there in round 3, maybe it's closer to -3, -4 with the windier conditions, but he's going to have to hit the irons better. That's for sure. He said, bro, Jagerbomb was cooking and then you put in a live bet and he copped on the back 9. Dude, that's what we call the mush, by the way, Rob. When you go out there, you say anything nice about a player, normally the absolute worst ends up happening afterwards. Yeah, that's something that I'm all too familiar with. And we'll look at the contest. You said they're not looking that great. We'll see in a few minutes. I haven't taken a look myself, so I can't really give you any feedback there. Let's talk through some of these other shots gained metrics. So what I normally look for in round 2 and what you guys can maybe incorporate into your own process is we want some ball striking poppers if they're going to be low owned. Now, JT, after his nuclear round, probably not going to be all that low owned, but a Sunjay Im after his nuclear day from tee to green, right, might be a little bit lower owned. Guys like, let's say, a Fleetwood, right, a Minwoo Lee, right, they're not going to be overlooked. Same thing with a Will Zalatoris, but a Tom Kim who hardly made the cut, right? He also lost 4 strokes over there with the putter today. He'll probably be a little bit overlooked, except Straka. Now, he's still going to get some ownership because he's there at T11 and -6, but he also lost strokes with the putter today, but gained out there from tee to green. So these kind of players that were solid with hitting the golf ball today, whether it's off the tee approach or over there around the green, and that just couldn't get the ball in the hole on the greens, and the kind of guys that I'm looking for a bounce back. So Shane Lowry, right, already mentioned him before as a player that you could look for that. Now, I wish Andrew Novak would have made the cut because, he's +3, right, not playing over there on the weekend. He is the exact kind of stat profile that we're looking for in players. So we can translate this to even more players that made the cut, like a Taylor Pendrith. You would argue that he's due for a little bit of short game regression, not only over there with the putter, but also over there around the green. You've got guys like Corey Connors, who I guess unsurprisingly, right, couldn't get anything in the hole, but that's kind of what Corey Connors does. The guy's a dog shit putter, for lack of a better word. You've also got guys like Tom Hoagie at -3 that couldn't get anything done with the short game. Justin Lauer that hardly went out there and made the cut. These sort of players are the ones that I'm actively looking to target in lineups because not only are the guys that are just hardly through the cut, right? There's -1 to maybe -4s. Not only are they going to have an earlier tee time, which you already mentioned, could be advantageous over there for tomorrow. And I always say could be because who knows, right? Forecast might change on us. We'll have to see what the case is here in a few hours. But on top of that, they're also going to be lower owned, right? Because they just hardly made the cut. They're not nearly as in good a form as some of the guys up there towards the top. They're going to be relatively overlooked by a lot of the masses. Now, maybe not by everyone that's watching this live stream, right? Maybe some of your more sweaty tryhards that we have out there in the industry, right? They'll be doing their full deep dives, right? Trying to find some of those early starters to go out there and target. I'm talking about your toilet bowl warriors, right? Your ones that are out there taking a shit at midnight that are going out there and entering lineups. The ones that are drunk over there on a Friday night that don't have any idea what the hell they're doing when they're going out there and building their lineups. Those sort of people are going to be, oh, Minwoo Lee is -11. Let's play him. Oh, it's Rory McIlroy. I know that guy. Let's throw him into lineups. Oh, Tommy Fleetwood. Oh, he looks good. Maybe they'll look at the shots gained metrics. Oh, he's gaining like 2.5 strokes approach today. Maybe we'll go out there and throw him in lineups. They don't think to go down to the early starters, the guys with the better conditions, or the players that maybe aren't playing as well because they aren't as seamless of picks, right? You got to think those people that are out there playing against you in a lot of these contests are absolute dumbasses for the most part, especially in those big $5, $25 GPPs. You're oftentimes playing against, like I said, drunks or people on the toilet bowl out there at midnight. Now, if you're in single entry, some of your higher dollar stuff, the competition tends to get a little bit sharper, right? When you're going out there and you're entering a $250 single entry, $100 single entry, that sort of thing, you're probably not some redneck sitting in his trailer entering at like 2 a.m, right? Like it's far less likely to be playing against that sort of demographic than you are people that are being, pretty educated, right, out there in these bigger contests. So just know that, especially in those large field GPPs, that you can leverage against all those slappies that are just playing the top end of the board by not only getting those better weather conditions, but also lower ownership in general. Now, not everyone plays that way, right? You're going to have some sharps that go out there and stack that wave too. So you can't just go out there and take a weather edge and go out there and take down GPPs. That's why, right, if you went out there and played the advantage today, right, 0.25 shots, you didn't just automatically win the GPP, right? And maybe that's why that J Habs guy was butthurt before, right? Because he didn't take home $10K on his $10 that he entered today. Like, oh, boo-hoo, dude, go ahead and kick rocks. But what it will do for you is it will set you up for success if you can go out there and find the right pieces within that wave. So that's why it's important to go out there and incorporate this sort of stuff, and why I really like those sort of players with the shots gained metrics, right? Not the ones that went out there today, gained tee to green, and also gained a whole bunch of putting. If they did that, they probably shot like -7, -8, right? And if they did that, then they're going to be super chalky out there tomorrow. It's the ones that maybe didn't quite get there, but it was that short game that held them back. Let's take a look at the contest now. So it looks like the 555 is about the same size. Same thing with this $250K sand trap that we have on here. So I know we had the comment about the contest not being that great, but they're kind of like round two. So, maybe not the best. They're not like a Masters or a US Open sort of contest, but I think they're decent, I would say, at least so far. You got this big $100 single entry. It's a sixth over there to first place. That's a pretty decent single entry, especially if it's about a $100 entry that you're looking to go with. The big $5 is a fifth over there to first place. So kind of like the big sand trap. It's a bit top heavy. So that would be my little constructive criticism for DraftKings there, is maybe flatten out the payout structure. There's a little bit more than you have already. You have this big 4 max $250 like we've had for pretty much for the last 6 months at this point, and it looks exactly the same as what we're used to seeing. You've also got this $200 single entry here, which is a little bit smaller. It's only 44 entries, so probably a little bit smaller than what I would go out there and enter, but it's not a terrible payout structure. I do like this $44, I believe it's 16 max. Okay, so they changed it up on us a little bit. 16 max out there for $44. That's a pretty decent payout structure. It's top heavy, but it's only got 500 entries. So if you're going to play a top heavy GPP, I'd prefer that sort of one as opposed to one with like 10 to 15,000 entries. And let's see, do they have that $10 18 max, which they've been posting most rounds. So I'm expecting to see it on here, but let's just confirm that. And maybe I went past it. Maybe I jinxed it, just like the JT today, huh? Not going out there and following him on 18. I don't see it. I may have jinxed it. So it might not just be showing up, right? Maybe we have to scroll down a little bit and go out there and find it. And if they have that $10 18 max, one of the best contests that you could possibly enter. But when I'm going out there and actually entering my lineups, just like our round 2 showdown, there might be a little bit of a weather edge to go out there and lean into, but I'm mostly worried about my ownership. And luckily for us over here in round 3, both of those kind of coincide, right? Because the lower owned guys that we're trying to jam into lineups, right, to get different, give us that game theory advantage over our opponents, are also the guys that are going off early and that have the better weather conditions. So going over here to our lineup construction, I don't hate the idea of starting with guys that maybe spun their wheels a little bit. So Xander Schauffele would be exactly that sort of player, right, over there at -1. But even a Russell Henley, right, off his win last week, like you could start with him over there in the lineup. Maybe your next man in could be, let's say, a Corey Connors over there at $8,400. Now, they're not at -1. They didn't just go out there and make the cut, but they'll have an early-ish tee time starting at -2 apiece. And both have played some relatively good golf recently. So I don't think it'd be that mind-blowing if they went out there and found some success. We could throw in Aaron Ryan to this lineup. Already mentioned that he lost over 4 shots gained to putting today. Highly unlikely that that's going to happen multiple days in a row. I guess we could circle back and maybe throw in a Daniel Berger into this lineup. Let me go ahead and I'm assuming that he made the cut. I got to say, right, we just went live, so let's double check. So yeah, he made the cut over there at -1. Just wanted to make sure he didn't fall out of it over his last few holes. And then our last 2 spots were at 75.5 remaining for our last 2 spots. You got to obviously keep ownership in mind a little bit. But even if you went with, let's say, a McIntyre at -4, or a Siwoo Kim down here at -3, who are both going to be maybe average, maybe slightly above average ownership out there in both cases, you're going to be totally fine because we've got leverage pieces in 3 or even 4 spots already over there in this lineup. So pretty much no matter who you rounded off this lineup with, in fact, if you wanted to go mega chalk with a Batia or a Spawn at $7,500, you probably get away with this in the $5 or $25 GPP. Now, just because they say you get away with it, right, doesn't mean that it's a good play. That ownership still matters. It still gives you less leverage against the field if those players go out there and hit. And it's really easy to think about because you go, okay, if Akshay hits at like 20, 25%, then quarter of the field has that same play as me, right? JJ Spawn could be a little bit lower on, maybe like 15% over there for tomorrow. You're still sharing them with a good amount of the field. Whereas, and it's a risk, right? He's not playing as well this week, but if you went with, let's say, Tom Kim as your last man in, right, leaving $100 on the table, if he goes off at, let's say, sub 7% ownership, then you're going to have a much bigger spot of leverage against the field. They go out there and move up in those GPPs. So I would say for round 3 showdown, it's probably the most important of any slate that we go through is play the game theory edge, right? Placement means nothing over there for round 3, right? Round 4, it's a different story, right? We'll mention that over there for tomorrow's live stream. But as of right now, it literally does not matter where a player's starting. So if you're going out there and you're stacking the top end of the board, like I said, the midnight shitters, right? The rednecks out there and their trailers, right? Going out there and trying to build lineups, then you're donating money long-term, especially in those $5 and $25 GPPs. So just keep that in mind with the lineup construction. Let's see, where'd we go? We just got whole locations. Okay, let's take a look at that here in a second. And by the way, he said Keegan Saturday Smash. I'm there with you on that. I really like him this week. I bet him for top 20 this week. Not playing quite how I'd hope he will, but he's not in a terrible spot. He at least made the weekend, right? Top 20 is still within the cards. Round 2, he gained off the tee, wasn't his best over there in approach, but round 1 was a lot more solid. So I think I'm there with you, man. I think he's probably going to make quite a few of my lineups as well. We got whole locations, which speaking of, we'll take a quick glance, right? Obviously, I'm going to do the full deep dive when we go through the prop and betting live stream. That'll be over there on my channel, by the way. That's GS LukeDFS if you guys want to check that out. Out there for all the pin locations, full deep dive. We're going to go hole by hole and kind of go through those. But here they are in all their glory. So hole 1's kind of tough. Yeah, I'd actually say that qualifies as a tough pin there in the back left. Hole 2 is a par 5, so that one's really not all that bad. You have enough room to get up and down at it. Hole 3, kind of tough. Hole 4, really tough there, especially with all the wind that they're expecting for tomorrow. 5 on the front right, it's kind of like an average pin. 6, same thing, kind of like an average pin that you have. 6, maybe a little bit easier than today, I'd say, at least comparatively. 7, not that bad, but not that easy. Same thing with 8. 8 is a long hole, right? It's like 230 yards. So there in that back left corner, it adds a little bit of extra length over there to that kind of hole. 9's a par 5. That's the easiest pin that you have at 9. So, there are a few easier ones, I would say, like 9, maybe 5 kind of stand out, maybe even 6, 7 as easier holes. But you've still got enough tricky holes mixed in here where, it looks like they're going a little bit easy on these players, but it doesn't look like they're going overly easy in terms of the conditions. Like 10's a tough one, but 11's a par 5, and that's an easy pin to get up and down to. 12 is tucked near the water. And what I'll say about 12, guys, is that they're going to move up that tee box. Every single Saturday at the Players, at least the last 4 or 5 years, they've moved up the tee box at 12 to make it drivable. So though it's near the water, right, it looks like a tough pin, it's going to be an easier hole because of them likely moving up the tee box. And I'll say likely because it's not guaranteed, but they've done it the last 4 years. You also have 13 that looks a little tough, 14 as well. So I'd say it's a classical moving day setup. Like, I thought they might try and take it a little bit easier on these players just because of the fact that the winds might be 30 miles an hour over there in the afternoon. They've done that in a few cases, but not across the board. So I guess I find that rather interesting. I also want to see if they posted anything about the tee times, because we did get everyone in. So I think that does make it a good chance that they're going to start off of hole number 1. So nothing posted there. I guess let's see if it's over here, huh? So yeah, it'll be twosomes off of hole number 1. So kind of like what we were hoping for. Shane Lowry will be in the first group out, and it's an 8:20 start. So I was kind of hoping it'd be like 7:40, right? Because if it was 7:40, there'd be a little bit more room for that weather edge. But I still think that those early guys are the ones that you're going to want to likely want. It's just that you're not going to have a massive sample size of those players. Like, this Lowry, he looks like a really good play, especially with his tee to green stats. Tom Kim as well, right? Like, he's hitting the ball well. Daniel Berger, Xander Schauffele, right? You could sign me up for those sort of plays. But like, as you start to get here to like 9:30, So like maybe you include a Corey Connors in the weather edge, maybe a Russell Henley, Ryan Sungjae, who, by the way, a lot of these players are guys that looked pretty good in the shots gained metrics. So kind of good to see that they're also part of this weather edge. But you get to like 10 o'clock and, by 10, it's starting to kick up a little bit, right? By the time we get to noon, it's, getting close to its apex in terms of its actual strength. I think like the cutoff might be around like 9:30 or like right about this mark. I'd say in general, the earlier the tee time, the better out there for players. But these guys going off at like 2:30 p.m., I mean, they're going to get screwed, right? They're playing in the conditions for the entire day, right? They're going to be in those 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts out there by the end of the day. Looks pretty brutal. And speaking of, I guess we'll refresh this one as well, just to see if maybe they give us a new triple R to go out there and go through. And it looks the exact same as what we had for before. So I don't know. It's looking like a fun slate, that's for sure. Can we look at Kurt Kitayama? Absolutely. So Kurt Kitayama, really low round. He was like -5 through his first 6 holes. I didn't get to see any of it, unfortunately. But today, he gained off the tee, actually lost on approach, which is kind of surprising. My guess would be, and yeah, you can see it over here, right? Like 14, he lost over a stroke on approach. At 9, he lost over a stroke over there on approach. So, the stats don't look that great on paper, right? Into the negative, right? By 0.5 strokes, but you remove 9, you remove 14 over here where he lost over a stroke in that category. I believe both were water balls, but I have to double check to actually confirm that. If you remove those 2, he's like 2 strokes into the positive, right? Out there in that category. So I think he's in play, especially because he's T49. He's got early-ish tee time. Yeah, especially if you remove those water balls, he had a pretty good day. Of course, Greg, best of luck out there tomorrow. You see the LSU Nick guy in the $100 single entry. Be careful going against him. I'm playing against you, Nick. You can't hide from me forever. Can Tambo employ somebody who doesn't say told you so like a child? All right, I'll just send you on your way as well, dude. And if you have a problem with me saying I told you so because you decided to chirp me and say something bad about me, then kick rocks and go on your way, dude. Like, what do you think, you can kick people and you can't take the kick back? You're childish, dude. Just grow up and sack up. We also got Kim down there, says Tom Kim thoughts. I really like Tom Kim for tomorrow. So reason for that is the fact that he lost a bunch putting and then he gained a bunch with the approach play. So normally that's kind of like the poster child of what we're looking for. Early tee time there at T65, just has to make more putts. And it wasn't even just the putter. He also lost about a stroke there around the green. Like, get your shit together. No $10 18 max. Maybe they'll post it at some point, man. It would be really nice to see that. You said, sorry, just hopping in. Of course, Cap. Hey, better to have you late than never. You said, seems like he did too well. Is it dumb to fade JT? I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it, man. I haven't really made up that decision myself. He played so well today that it's hard to want to fade him. Like, when I mean I literally saw somebody like hit the ball better than I've ever seen before, I mean that with every sense of the word. The guy went out there and was absolutely striping it. So I'm 50-50. I'm going to have to run my projections for ownership and see where it comes in. If he's going to be 30% owned, then no thank you, right? He'll be the easiest fade of my life at that sort of mark. But if he's in that 15 to 20% range, which is kind of where I'm thinking he's going to come in, then it's a little bit more of a question mark. You love starting with Lowry and Rye. I think that's a pretty good start too. And something to add on top of that, Jen, that I honestly just thought of, it's going to be windy, right? We like guys that are grinders. Lowry's a decent grinder, obviously won at Royal Port Rush when conditions were tough. And then Aaron Rye's a decent grinder too. Can I look at Thagala before I go? Absolutely. And hey, we're in no rush to get out of here. So if you guys have questions, I'll still go through them, especially if you guys aren't an asshole like those other few people. And, I'll still do this, right? I've got to say, like, the assholes are very annoying, but the people that are great down there in chat mean a whole lot more, that's for sure. So I appreciate all of you guys down there. Not so much those other 2 people I had to ban. Let's go through Thagala. So today, gained off the tee, over a stroke in that category, 3 strokes over there with the putter. This isn't the kind of stat profile where I'm like, oh, you got to go out there and run to go out there and play Sahith. But it's a whole lot better than round 1, right? Where he went out there and lost a bunch of strokes short game. Tee to green was actually okay, right? Positive both off the tee and on approach. I don't know. He's like a 6 out of 10, I would say. Like, I don't think it's a great stat profile, but I mean, he's been gaining over the last few days. He definitely had that bounce back that we were hoping for today over there with those 6 birdies. It's just that it wasn't done in a way where you're like, oh, wow, like he's definitely going to continue this, right? If he had gained like 3 strokes approach rather than those 3 strokes putting, I probably would be saying that, but unfortunately not. Looking like a low round out of Spieth tomorrow, dude. I hope so, dude. he had his bad day today, right? So, and I kind of called that, if you guys remember from yesterday, right? He had the 4 shots gained around the green, and hey, I told you so. Oh, was that going to make that guy butthurt Cameron down there in chat that I said I told you so out there about something? But yeah, like I said yesterday, guys, right? You gain 4 strokes around the green. It's really tough to go out there and back it up, right? Just like Aaron Ryan. Oh, I told you so again, just to go out there and trigger this guy even more. Oh, Aaron Ryan, right? Gained 4 strokes putting out there around 1. What did he do today? Oh, he lost those 4. Who would have thought? Anyways, just rub it in that guy's face even more. If he has a problem with me saying, I told you so, I'm going to say it literally as much as possible for that person. Ignore the haters. Trust me, I ignore them, but I like messing with them even more. It's honestly a lot more fun to do it that way. Ignoring them it's effective too, but it's really fun to mess with them too. Hey, if they're going to be assholes, I can be one back. I'll match that energy. I'm totally cool with it. JT wasn't that great. Didn't even get a bogey-free round. Yeah, dude, you'd think some people would probably feel that way. I know, who was it that had like 18, had a bogey-free round going and then did it yesterday? Somebody was talking shit to him. I was like, what are you guys doing? If someone on Twitter, I was like, I can't believe he didn't go out there and finish off the bogey-free round. And they were like -5. I was like, dude, like you could have shot +7, like a Tony Finau or like a Justin Thomas, +6 out there day one. Like, come on now. Fading JT because recency bias is always a killer, because you played JT in round 1. Yeah, that's the idea against it, right, Rob? Is that he'll be highly owned and people that'll get to him. Is it hell yeah, Carson and Cam Young paired together? No way. Is this actually real? The C Young pairing, the one where people watching are going to have no idea who's who? Oh, look at it. The C Young pairing. You weren't lying. You dirty dog, Ross. You said, in order to say I told you so, you have to be right. So there's that. Exactly, right? So, hey, if he has a problem with me saying I told you so, then I guess I got to get things wrong. So I can't say I told you so. But that's all I've got, guys. Going to go ahead and call it off at this point. Got through all those questions that I wanted to down there. But main things first. Best of luck over there with all your exposure for tomorrow. And on top of that, have fun with your exposure, right? This is Showdown. You should go out there and have a good time. All of you people, by the way, the naysayers that were talking all that shit, just try to have some more fun with DFS, right? Just because I think something out there in my process doesn't mean you have to do it as well, right? It doesn't mean you have to go out there and try and say nasty things to me. So if you're one of those people, I'd say take a chill pill, maybe try and enjoy some time with your family and friends or something. Probably a little bit healthier than going out there and hating on other people. But to everyone else out there, 99% of you, who, by the way, trust me, I care a lot more about the 99% of you than the 1% of you that have bad things to say. 99% of you, let's go out there and kill some contests, right? Let's go out there, take down a GPP or two. I hope to see your guys' names towards the top of those GPPs as well. I'm going to be playing a little bit heavier tomorrow. I'm going to be out there in person, maybe entering some, $100, $200 single entries, as I mentioned before. But there's a good chance I go out there and max enter that big $5 GPP too. We're going to have some fun with it, right? Try and have a takedown out there in person. We were close last week at the API out there on Sunday. I was out there in the running for quite some time. There's nothing like having one of those sweats out there in person, but it's all I've got. As the guys said before, guys, smash that like button if you haven't already. Also subscribe so we can pump up those numbers over there on the SHIPIT Nation channel. And see you guys out there for round 4 as well.